Maligayang buwan wika, mga kababayan. It is August, which is the month of languages here in the Philippines, where we celebrate every single language and dialect from all over the country. And with that, today I present to you my WIKATHON TBR. But first, what is WIKATHON? WIKATHON is a month-long readathon in August celebrating Filipinos. Basically, you can read any book in any language or dialect as long as they are written by a Filipino. And for that, I actually bought a fuck ton of new books because, support and love local. Back when I was still in grade school and high school, Buwan ng Wika was like my favorite celebration because we used to have this day where we would dress in Filipiniana attire or like traditional Filipino attire, and it was like pabonggahan. Or like people, because I was in an all-girls school, the girls would compete by looking the best. They would be donned in their like Maria Claras and Imeldas, and meanwhile, I looked like your typical dalagang bukid. My attire was so simple, but I enjoyed walking around campus in my bakya or like wooden sandals, and and when we like have to climb up the stairs because our stairs were made of marble, I think, and it was so slippery, so I would take off my sandals and just walk barefoot the 3 flights of stairs to get to the 3rd floor. But yeah, that's not why we're here. I just, I have very fond memories of Buwan ng Wika. But yes, even though I almost failed Filipino multiple times, I absolutely love Buwan ng Wika. And I've been dying to read more Filipino written works, and I'm so glad that a lot of Filipinos are being published internationally now. But I digress. We are going to do our TBR. I will have Tita Kate's Twitter linked down below, as well as the Twitter for WIKATHON, as well as all the necessary links on her blog, including the announcement post, as well as some recommendations for books that you can read for each prompt, if you plan on joining. How many prompts are there? Like I said, I didn't come prepared, but like, there are, I think, 9 prompts because there was a big old board, but yeah. The first prompt is bagong salta, which is to refer to those who are newcomers to a neighborhood. In particular, it is used to describe people from the provinces and countryside who go to Manila to find work. So usually they're called bagong salta sa Maynila. And for that, it is read a book by a Filipino author you've never read before. I have 2 options for that prompt because I'm indecisive and I want to read both of these so badly, so I'll figure out which prompt to fit. We have 2 books that I want to read. It is America is Not the Heart by Elaine Castillo, and also Never Have I Ever by Isabel Yap. I am leaning towards Never Have I Ever, but I also really want to read this so badly because I feel like it was Miranda from Pages and Stages who read this and was like, it's really good. But this one is very in line with like the other readathon I'm joining, which is Cookie Smart Bitch. You know what? I'll figure it out. It is just... God, ang hirap na mag-summarize. Okay. If you hear something in the background, that is the rain. It has been raining so hard these days. But it's like ambient sounds, We love the rain. Anyway, America is Not the Heart is about Hero de Vera. Because of a political upheaval in the Philippines and being disowned by her parents, she is sent to America to live with her uncle and his younger wife. Her uncle and the younger wife does not ask Hero about her past, knowing full well the De Vera family's secrecy, but their daughter, the first American-born Filipino in the family, just can't resist asking Hero about her damaged hands. Anyway, this book is basically about 3 generations of women who are Filipino immigrants. Never Have I Ever by Isabel Yap is a collection of 13 captivating short stories with fantasy, horror, and sci-fi elements. The sci-fi part, I feel like this will be a little bit out of my comfort zone because of the sci-fi aspects, but the horror bits, I am very excited to see. So I don't really know anything about the horror stories except some of the titles which I read on the Goodreads page, and I'm excited to pick this one up. Very excited. This has been one of my most anticipated. Was this released this year? But I remember adding it to my most anticipated releases. And the short stories are inspired by Filipino folklore, which is honestly one of my favorite things to read about. I have another one of that here in my TBR. Also, apparently, this one has like queer rep in some of the stories, and that makes me even more excited to pick it up. The next prompt is decentralization, which is derived from the Spanish word that means decentralization. According to Tita Kate's blog post, it is the centering of Imperial Manila, as well as the perpetuation of Tagalog, often leaves other Filipino places, people, and languages by the wayside. So for this prompt, read a book by a Filipino author who is not Tagalog. So for example, they are Kapampangan, Bisaya, Ilonggo, Ilocano, Waray, and the likes. There are so many options for this, but something caught my eye in Tita Kate's blog post of recommendations, and that is a book by Tiff Marcelo, someone who I've been wanting to read for a while now because she writes, I think, romcoms, and I'm kind of in the mood for that too. So it is The Key to Happily Ever After by Tiff Marcelo. It's about the De La Rosa sisters whose family owns a wedding planning business, and I love that so much. So it's set in Washington, D.C., and the family for years has been making happily ever afters possible for even the most difficult of brides. But then the parents announced their retirement, so the three sisters are determined to take on the business themselves. And okay, one, I love wedding planning businesses in fiction, and two, I love stories about sisters or like group of women who are very different from each other and they have to like work together to prove something. And I'm really excited for this one. Hopefully I can actually get to this. Tiff Marcelo has like a lot of rom-coms written, so if you're still looking for like an author for this prompt and you're looking for something light to read, Tiff Marcelo is the way to go. Next you have bailan, which is a term for Philippine shamans who practice spiritual healing and mediumship, which is why we have babailans, who are priestesses. And for this prompt, it is read a book by a Filipino author featuring the supernatural. This is where, actually we can also read Never Have I Ever for this, but this is where the book I have written in Tagalog comes in, and that is Jano Silang and Ang Tiyanak ng Tabon by Edgar Calabia Samar. If you saw my haul, I borrowed this from a friend and I am so excited to get to it. Everyone in the Philippine book community has probably read this or is in the process of reading it, and all I've heard are amazing reviews, and I'm really excited to get to this. I feel like this one has like sword art online vibes because, okay, so it's about this online game called Tala. Tala is Tagalog for star. And Filipino kids in computer shops all over the countries began dying while they were playing Tala. And I was like, I don't know how they're going to incorporate that, but it really does give Sword Art Online vibes. And Janos was called by this guy named Joey to investigate what's going on with the RPG. I'm sorry, the summary is in Tagalog and I was like, what the heck? But yeah, I'm excited to read it. I feel like even if it is short, it's going to take me a while because I really do have a hard time like reading Filipino. By the way, I think Tala is like a game inspired by Filipino folklore because Tiyanak is, honestly, I don't get scared easily, but Tiyanak is one of like the scariest Filipino folklore creatures in existence to me because I hate children and Tiyanak is a baby. Like, Tiyanak is basically this fetus creature that came from a miscarriage or an abortion, and they cry to get your attention. Like, you will hear them cry in like forest or whatever, and you will look for them because you're like, oh my god, there's a child suffering somewhere, and then when you see them, they are fetus and they will attack you and they will like eat your face off or something. That is based from the movies I watch where there are Tiyanaks, and I'm like, I'm not fucking with that. Next prompt is tadhana, which means fate. It is prominently used in like love stories and love songs, including like the song Tadhana by Up Down, which I absolutely love, and the movie That Thing Called Tadhana. So for this one, obviously, it is read a romance novel by a Filipino author where both the main character and the love interest are Filipino. For that, I have Love and Other Questionable Life Choices by Chio Rodriguez. It is a collection of short stories, and by short, I mean short. Like there are 3 short stories and it is super short. It has like 50 pages. And 2 of the 3 short stories I think fit this prompt. I'm not sure, but like I think the second story has a love interest who is a foreigner, but the first story and the third story I think will definitely fit into the prompt. The third story, by the way, is a sapphic short story, and it brought me back to like 11 years of an all-girls Catholic school education, and just my heart, it was so wholesome. But yeah, anyway, the stories here, really good. Yes, I have already read it. I was so excited I read it in like August 1st when the readathon started. But so the next prompt is illustrato, which means a group of elites educated mostly in private universities in Manila than in Europe. So there are usually philosophers, poets, musicians, authors, painters, teachers, or other creative and intellectual or academic careers. They were often depicted as significant members of the revolution against Spain and were instrumental to Philippine independence. So for this one, it is read a book by a Filipino author featuring intellectuals, academics, or an academia setting. For this one, I have chosen Creep by Jennifer Hillier. Jennifer Hillier, by the way, is, according to a Rappler article, 100% Filipino, and the Hillier last name was taken from her husband because she is married. But yeah, Creep is something I will also be reading for the Spooky Smart Bitch readathon, so it fits. I think it is inspired by Radiohead's song Creep, and it is Jennifer Hillier's debut novel. This one is about Sheila Tao, who is a professor of psychology and an expert in human behavior, who started an affair with a student. He's a graduate student, so I guess that's legal, right? But then Sheila, the professor, attempts to like walk away from the affair, and apparently Ethan is a fucking psycho, and if he can't have her, then no one can. But then Ethan threatens Sheila that he will post a sex video that will definitely get her fired and destroy her career. It is a psychological thriller, which I am very excited to pick up because I'm also in a thriller mood. My reading mood has been really weird. Like I am in the mood for romance, and I'm also in the mood for psychological thrillers, so this is perfect. Rachel from The Shades of Orange gave it like 4.5 stars, and I trust her judgment because she is one of my favorite horror booktubers, and I am really excited. Especially because it is written by a Filipino author, and I don't know any other Filipino authors who actually write psychological thrillers, and I'm excited for this one. Next prompt is katipunan, which is the kataas-taasan, kagalang-galangang katipunan ng mga anak ng bayan. I don't know how to translate that, and so I will just not. But in short, it is the katipunan, and they were a revolutionary society founded by anti-colonialist forces in the Philippines. The Spanish authorities who colonized us discovered the katipunan in 1896, and it was that discovery that led to the outbreak of the Philippine Revolution. So for this prompt, it is read a book by a Filipino author featuring a secret society. For this one, I really don't have one, except for Vampires of Portlandia by Jason Tanamor, who is a Phil-Am author. So it is about a family of aswang vampires who move from the Philippines to Portland. That sounds so good, but it has like a lot of mixed reviews, so I am a little worried. But it is also it's already on my Goodreads shelf, and it was one of my anticipated as well from last year. So the reason Marcella Leones relocates her family of, again, aswang vampires to Portland is so that they can escape the hunters and Filipino government that attempted to exterminate them. And honestly, while I'm excited for this, I'm a little nervous because of the mixed reviews. But I really want to read more stories about aswang because, again, I want to be an aswang so bad. Like, why can't I be a manananggal so I can fly away from my problems? The next prompt is Balangiga, and Balangiga is a small town in the province of Samar. In 1901, it was the site of a horrific conflict between Filipino and American forces. The Philippine Republican Army defeated US troops, which provoked retaliation from the Americans, and apparently shit hit the fan, you know? When US forces departed, they took the bells from the burned down Balangiga church. These bells were only returned to the Philippines in 2018. So for this one, it is read a book by a Filipino author featuring imperialism. It is my first time reading from this author as well, so it also works for like the first prompt. But for this one, I have chosen to read Wicked As You Wish by Rin Chupeco. I've been meaning to read like a Rin Chupeco book for like the longest time. I don't know why I haven't yet, but when I saw this in fully booked for like a very affordable price, I took the opportunity to grab it. This one is super high fantasy, so I am not going to be able to bring justice to how I will explain the summary, but I'm going to try because like I can only explain summaries when I've already read the book because I understand it, but this one is super high fantasy and I don't know how I'm going to be able to explain it without like confusing everyone. So basically, many years ago, there was a war in the magical kingdom of Avalon. So its former citizens are now refugees in a world mostly devoid of magic, and they settled in Arizona. I know Rin Chupeco is like a sapphic author, so I really hope this has like sapphic representation as well. I am trying to get into more high fantasy because it has always intimidated me, so hopefully this one will open my eyes to the beauty of fantasy and also the beauty of fantasy worlds created by Filipino authors. The next prompt is one I'm also excited about. It is kayode, which is a word that literally means to scrape or to grate. However, in modern language, it's also come to mean working hard or the daily grind. So, everyday kumakayod, you know. And for this one is read a book by a Filipino author with an emphasis on the main character's livelihood, job, trade, etc. And for this one, which I think also works for the tadhana prompt, I have chosen You, Me, Us by Bridget Bautista. The us is stylized as US because I think it is set in the US, but both characters are Filipino. It is about best friends Joe and Lisa, who are total opposites because Joe is a sex worker and just wants to live a carefree life, while Lisa is a sales clerk who is a little more uptight and plans to like give her family a better future. And I am so excited for this because it is sapphic, and Bridget Bautista has totally become one of my favorite local authors, not just because of her sapphic books and stories, but because her writing style is absolutely stunning. Anyway, I am excited to read You, Me, Us because it also has one of my favorite tropes, I think, which is best friends to lovers, and I hope it doesn't disappoint. I feel like it won't because this is such an underhyped book. And speaking of which, this also fulfills my prompt for Sapphic Summer, which is read an underhyped book. And you guys, please just read more of Bridget Bautista because I absolutely love her work. Finally, we have tula. The word tula means poem. So for that, it is read a book by a Filipino author in verse. And for that, I have chosen Pillow Talk by Alisa Cataluna, which I have already read. And I pre-ordered it actually, and I've already read it, I think yesterday. No, the other day. I read it the other day. And it was really good. It was super hard-hitting because it is about Alisa's, I think, toxic relationships and also her suffering from bipolar 2 disorder, which I also have. So it was really relatable for the most part, but trigger warnings for suicide ideation and self-harm and toxic relationships. It's really good though. I really enjoyed it. And oh my god, this video took forever because I kept rambling and I kept redoing some of the portions, but we have finally reached the end. And thank God, because I really came unprepared. I am so totally unprepared because I really wanted to release this video for you guys to see which books I'm planning to read for WIKATHON, and maybe these books can also work for you guys as recommendations. I actually thought about like wearing a traditional Filipiniana outfit for like this video, but that would be me being too extra and I already came very unprepared. But I feel like that would have made up for the fact that I am very unprepared. But yeah. Anyway, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you in my next one. Goodbye and maligayang buwan ng wika. You can tell I'm not prepared because I did not paint my nails. I literally, like a few minutes ago, I just took off my chip nail polish and it was like, you know what, fuck it. By the way, I am also Bisaya, which is probably why I almost failed Filipino. It's because like I get Bisaya and Tagalog confused. Like, for like most of my life, I thought this one word was Tagalog, and every time I use it, people were like looking at me weird, and apparently it was Visayan. So like, you know, my mom is from Davao, so I very much understand Bisaya, even though I hardly speak it. It's a miracle that my battery didn't die halfway through this video, considering I just charged it like an hour before I had to film.